What's going on, YouTube? The Last Musketeer here, and we're going right on with a continuation of where we're at in the last video. So here I'm taking Mudrock to 68, which is pretty decent upgrade considering last time I believe she was around E1 13. So that's a nice number to see. Not quite 69, I didn't have quite enough for that. The magic number will have to pass for that time. But we're doing the next part of CC, and I'm using basically the same strat that I used last time. Now this time I have Cantabile on the left side, giving me some extra DP, because I believe I had the risk with the lower DP generation, if I'm remembering correctly. So the main aspect is having enough that I can deploy fast enough for Chin, because otherwise I'm going to have to try to block that lane, and I don't want to have to do that because the main thing is I don't want anything to be on those actual pads for the moment, because I don't want them to swap the elements so far. So we throw Gravel down to just tank a little bit of damage so that Chin can get down there, and then I throw another unit in there to tank a little bit more. And that's the thing I love about having Cantabile in these lineups, because she is a fast deploy vanguard. She can give you DP right off the rip. I think she's an absolutely insanely good unit, and if people don't utilize her, you definitely should from this point, because I was so lucky to get her, and I think I got her to potential 3 or 4 because I pulled her a ton during the Gavial banner, which I'm very, very happy for. But I had to throw Thorns down here to make sure that this guy didn't go by, because that could essentially end the run and make me have to restart, though I don't think I actually leak any of these throughout this run, which is pretty good. But having the option to leak an extra at the end if things do go south can completely change it. Now I let the rest of these blow up, and then now all I have to do is deal with the boss. Now the boss is full health, which could be a problem, but we do have the Chin altar to borrow, so I don't necessarily have to worry about that. I can actually drop some extra damage if I need to as well. The thing I had to pay attention to, though, was the fact that the blindy on the left side is going to change to a different element, so I had to drop the firecracker, and I almost missed it because I almost forgot to do that, because I had missed it probably a couple times in the runs. That was mainly where I'd mess up every single time, if it wasn't for me messing up on the Chin altar timing as well, because that can happen. If you don't get it out fast enough, I just couldn't hold long enough. So now I'm putting some extra damage in, we make quick work of the boss, and that one is done. Now for a little bit of context for this next video, I'm using the in-game music, but also I didn't record a lot of this because realistically most of my runs did not go well, and sometimes I just forget to hit the record button, to be honest. It's unfortunate that I didn't get to show the whole run and do a full breakdown and everything, but I did finally get my first IS2 clear, of which I was extremely happy. And I also have to thank the people that were in there, because I was streaming in Discord at the time that this was happening. So there was a lot going on. I felt a little more pressure than I probably should have, but I did finally get the dream run, and I pulled Posey out of one of the vouchers as a temporary recruit, because I had borrowed Mudrock, I believe. And so getting Posey was actually huge. I promoted her the stage before the boss. Literally the luckiest I could have been, because otherwise I might not have got it done. I also wanted to talk for a second about how good I think this ending actually is. You know, you're beating the IS2 for the first time, you're high on that adrenaline, that emotion, and then it gives you a short little summary that I think is beautifully written. And you get to learn a little bit more about Phantom, the guilt he feels from what he has done, the debt that needs to be paid for all the people that he lured to their demise, and knowing that Rose Island cares enough about their people to risk life and limb going through this was such an emotional aspect. I loved every minute of it. And I have to say, I'm ready to learn more about Phantom, and Shalem, of course, through more runs, so hopefully, you know, I get to actually do some of these other endings and find things out about it. But it was a good way to bring it to a close. Now, I do say that, you know, most of the time if you're doing the first ending, you're going to find him again, so you got to bully him a few more times before he gets it through that thick head of his, but it was a great thing. I want to say real quick, shout out to Dr. K. Seraphin, JR, Shy, and Pray or Loot. I don't know which one of you was actually in there with me as well. but one of you two was, so I threw you in there. Big thanks to you guys because you helped me a lot during that run, not only from the strategy but from an emotional standpoint, keeping everything together, because I did have a little bit of a hard time getting through it. I risked the run 2 or 3 different times. Got lucky with some of the pulls and stuff, but once again, thank you, big thank you to you guys for watching that. But we're going into the next CC, and this was actually, I think, the first one that I ever did. So going through the second time was actually interesting to see, and honestly wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. The main thing is you don't want to have any operators down in the middle, or those evocators with the risk adjustment are going to absolutely decimate you. So Chin Alter, once again MVP, basically MVP all the time. That operator is just so insane that it just doesn't even seem fair half the time. But mainly I'm just dropping a few snipers. I have Thorns for the bottom lane, tanking some damage. He's going to be healed so he can be left alive during this. And then just making sure that I time the skill correctly so that I can take out both the Purifier and the Evocator. The Gargoyles I'm not too worried about. I had to take out one of them for sure because I believe 2 more come. And just being able to pass them through is great because they are very tanky, very annoying to deal with. Having Cantabile dropped this wrong, and the funniest thing is she got it all the way to where it was 1 shot away, and he walked right in to the pathing right at that moment. So instead of knocking it down and doing a little bit more stalling and a little bit more damage, I didn't quite get the timing right. So I let that first one pass. I tried to block the gargoyle for a moment because I thought maybe I would have to, just to make the run a little easier, but I eventually let him go, and I thought, no, well, actually I can just leak him. There was only 1 more I had to deal with, luckily, so that one done is fantastic. And a little bit of context for this next clip. I actually had to do this last Risk 8 on CC10 the last day, like 3 hours before it ended, because I didn't realize I had the wrong date of when it was actually supposed to happen. So whenever I did it, I had to come up with a strategy and come up with a way to beat it as fast as I possibly could. Now I knew Kelsteed and NTR were going to be the only 2 options I had for dealing with this because I myself don't have much damage to get rid of the boss. I tried it before. The first time I beat it, I did it without either of them, but not in a risk addition, so it actually was going to be nigh impossible any other way. Now I have Thorns holding left lane. I'm baiting the casters to make sure he doesn't go down, and I also dropped Cantabile over there. That way Thorns doesn't take the next shot before I get Shining out, so that I can guarantee that he stays alive. Shining can keep herself alive because not much comes out after that. It's only the casters that really do damage for me. Now I have to make sure Gabriel the Invincible doesn't go down here because those things actually do quite a lot of damage. Now I could have used her skill 1 for a little bit of regen for herself, but I thought I would probably need the damage to help with the boss, so I went for the skill 2. The extra 140% is actually nuts. So I do have monster facing right side where I could have made him face downward to make that a little easier, but I knew with the things passing by, if there's a chance that I don't take out the right lane, I 100% have to make sure that he is able to deal with that. Otherwise, I just lose the run in case anything goes bad or I need to leak something. Now obviously I can't leak the boss, so I have to be careful there. And also I had ran this multiple times and kept losing monster at this point because even though it didn't feel like the boss did that much damage to him, between the extra 1,000 from the nuke and the boss hitting him at the same time, it ended up doing just enough to take monster out every time. So I had to formulate a way around that, which was basically dropping some other units to tank while Kelsteed heals him because, of course, she is picky who she heals. So once I got that done, I also drop Courier on the right side to take the boss damage after that. So now the sword guys don't do enough in the timing to actually take him out, so he survives with very little health. Kelsteed is keeping him healthy, getting that lane done, and luckily, you know, the sword guys, I thought they were going to hit a lot harder on him, but We're pretty lucky in that aspect, I guess. So Gavial doing a little extra damage while he doesn't have the dodge, or have to deal with it with true damage instead. So that's going to be a little bit of weight taking off a monster's shoulders a little bit later on. And I know that the boss is going to pass up through the lane that is right through Monster, so he's going to have to deal with Monster personally, which is not something he's going to have very good capabilities of doing. Now, one thing I also had to make sure of was the amount of damage that he does from that range. When he goes into the second phase, I had to bait with another defender at the bottom lane to make sure that Monster does not go down from that, because that is going to lose the run for me as well if I'm not careful. I get Monster back to full health before this nuke goes down. Drop Norcorn for the bottom side to make sure that he takes the first blast, then drop Beagle, and Monster is taking a bit of damage because he's in range and Beagle is not out of range of the boss, but at least in this sense, I know that having the true damage right off the come up there, Beagle's going to take that shot, he's going to get stunned, which means he has no extra damage to come out, and then I just protect the other lane with my other defenders. And that was my risk 8 run. Like I said, I'd love to do higher risk than that, but I did goof up on the actual days, so I didn't get more out of it. It's just so much CC, different things going on between that and work. I ran out of so much time. And so when it comes around again, hopefully I'll be able to do something a little more. Maybe get to that risk 18 point. That would be absolutely fantastic. We are now getting to what the current event going on is, the to be continued event, and I think for a mini event is really cool. The stages are actually really nice, getting to go through all the different maps because they come from different locations and different events that I'm actually starting to run into in the chapters, so it was cool to get a first-hand look at it before I actually got into any of those map stages. So kind of cool to see that it includes all these different areas. Now, the resources that you can earn for it are very slim, probably just because it's a mini event running for a week. You're not necessarily going to be able to farm it all that much unless you have a ton of energy saved up. So I think they did a decent job of that, though I would have liked a little bit more LMD personally, because that would have helped me in the long run a lot more, because I'm trying to get, like I said, the E2 Mudrock. That is the main goal right here. Though it is fun watching them sit on the ice and get frozen over and over again, but also not fun because it's a mechanic that I'm going to have to deal with in the later stages, which is actually scary. I'm not a big fan of the freeze mechanic at all. I'm sure most people aren't, unless it's beneficial for your character, because the slow, just from the cold, even if they're not being frozen, puts a lot of limitations on your actual squad. This one, of course, being easy since it's the first stage, didn't have a lot of requirement, but I am showing it just for the fact of showing what it looks like, because talking about all these different stages is something that I generally try to do and kind of show what Arknights does to implement, to make it a little more fresh as you're going through these, so you're not seeing just the same thing over and over again. It's really nice. Now this one, actually fun. I was scared at first because I saw all the rocket guys on the side. I was afraid there was going to be a ton of them spawning at some point, and I dropped Cruise there just to get rid of it because they are not quite in range, I don't think. No, they actually might have been if I dropped Jay or somebody in that next lane, now that I'm thinking about it. They have like a 3 range reach, so potentially I might not have had to bait poor Cruise with those rockets, but at least I took her out before she got blown up by him. And now I have Jay just taking out left side because the turret guys are walking through and Jay's not going to go down. I have plenty of deployment points. I also have Myrtle out in case they do get a little lower, but even with the guys going unblockable on the left side, Jay's taking them out before they even get by, which is one of the reasons I love Jay so much, and should be E2ing him very soon, though I am taking my sweet time with that just because of Mudrock. But I probably will take him up next because he has been that beneficial to my squad. Now I skipped TC4 here because I didn't necessarily need to show it. I didn't want to make these videos too terribly long, but TC5 I did want to show because I did mess up a couple times when I was doing the runs. Just off the order that I put them through, I had to be a little more careful I tried to make it the last person that I put out, like Jay being at the back line, and I guess for some reason, the one I had out before that, when they weren't attacking Jay, or when they were out of his range, they were attacking one of my most important operators. So instead of having somebody left or bottom lane to actually deal with them, I just stacked them all up top and made sure that I had a way of keeping everyone that I needed, because Jay sitting in the back wasn't necessary for the whole block. And I also added Mystima into the lineup just because Mystima's freeze with her second ability that I have currently was actually the thing that I needed to hold off a lot of the big guys long enough so that Mudrock can come back up and get them dealt with. Because every time Mudrock goes down, I'm going to have a very rough time. So as you see here, I put Jay at the back. He is going to start tanking for that. And if I'm at the risk of running one through, I just activate Mystima's ability, get to take out all those. But even without E2, just watching how much Mudrock does for my squad is insane, because basically anyone else I would have put there right now would have been absolutely decimated. As you see, Gavial's skill 2, putting in work, pulling everybody through, and the best part about it is she can pull through the actual defender so they don't actually get blocked, which is amazing. I think that is a very useful mechanic that probably is underutilized in a lot of situations, because sometimes you have to have somebody blocking a unit that has specifically 3 block need. So having Gavial there to pull past and make it a little easier would have been better. And in hindsight, watching this, I put the block there instead of keeping the one to the right of Thorns available. Like, I could have switched it out a little bit later, because I think that being able to funnel them into one specific area, and of course I don't have Ifrit, so I can't barbecue that middle lane. Ifrit would literally just wipe everything so easily there. But putting it to where I can focus Thorns on the right side as well as the other operators that I have was actually probably better in this situation, though I think less stress on the lanes overall. The big thing was making sure I took out the big guys riding the boats, because if not, I would have no way of blocking them, since they require 3 block for those guys. So basically I added in Mystima and threw in Steward for another caster to guarantee that I could get them down in time. It was still a little close, but right there I used Mystima's ability to make sure that the other one doesn't get by, because I don't think the first one would have gone down in time. So doing that secured me the run. It was something I had to figure out for a little bit there. But as you see, we're taking Mudrock to E180, and we're just a little bit shy of what we needed to get. I have to get a few chips, which I think I have enough of them. I just have to form them, and then the incandescent alloy blocks, I can make a couple, or perhaps purchase them from one of the stores. So I have ways of getting those. I'm not too worried about that. It's the LMD that I'm always having the problem with. But this is going to be a huge upgrade when I can finally get this. But I'm going to end this video here, and I'll see you in the next part. Peace.